So I have to note here that with this whole deflation thing starting to set in from the latest inflation numbers, it reminds me of how we used to think about Japan, right? Deflation nation, why should people spend? Because, hey, why don't I wait? It could be even cheaper tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't help in a situation like China's now. How is that going to constrain further monetary stimulus from Chinese authorities? I mean,
yeah. Sure, fair point. This has been a pretty popular topic recently, right? The potential Japanification of China. But I argue that the situation is actually completely different. Because where the Japanese are concerned, when the bubble burst, they were already industrializing for more than 100 years, right? So pretty much everywhere was very, very well built up. Urbanization was already at its peak, and therefore there was not much more they can do from a fiscal stimulus perspective. And on top of that, the Japanese government for the last 3 to 4 decades have been very, very rigid, have not made any big moves with regards to the economy. And on top of that, the Bank of Japan has also been extremely conservative and only started to move aggressively after Abe got elected back in 2011. The Chinese, on the other side, are actually quite different. Rate of urbanization is only at about 60%, which means that you have another 40% of the people living in the countryside, right, that you can actually develop. Where the infrastructure development is concerned, sure, Shanghai, Beijing are first-tier cities, but the rest of China is still pretty much second to third tier, or even fourth tier. Okay. So there's a lot more they can do with regards to all these areas there. We tend to forget that China is actually very, very diversified in terms of the rates of development, maturity, and growth. So there is a lot more they can actually do in the tier 3, tier 4 cities. The only thing that they need to do right now is to basically increase the amount of stimulus. It is not enough. They're spending about 7 to 8% of GDP where fiscal stimulus is concerned. They need to actually pick that up, right? Or they can take the pain, wait until the cyclical economy starts to pick up, where the SME starts to hire, unemployment drops, then consumption can actually pick up again.
And stimulus is related to creating employment and jobs for these disaffected
And on top of that,
yeah.
if the property market is dead, consumption will be dead because it's actually quite, correlated, right? If you don't buy a property, you're not going to be buying consumer electronics, your bed sheets, your crockery, etc., etc. So there's a fair amount of things that you can actually do.